Apple Podcast is the largest podcast directory in the world. It accounts for 39% of all podcast downloads. It's also how you get your show on tons of other listening apps like CastBox, Overcast, and even iTunes. So this is absolutely the first place you should be submitting your podcast. Hey everybody, I'm Kelvin, and in this video, I'm gonna help you get your show on Apple Podcasts. Now, Apple has 4 main requirements you have to meet before you can submit your show to their directory. So I'll show you each of those requirements, and then I'll walk you through the process for submitting step by step. And the first thing you need to do is fill out your basic podcast info. Now, I'm using Buzzsprout for this example, and the section we're looking for is listed on the podcast info page right here. And my podcast name is Behind Sibling Lines. And to save time, I'm just gonna paste my description here since I've already written it. Now, something to keep in mind is that Apple uses the title and podcast creator fields for searches in Apple Podcasts. So think about the type of searches you wanna show up for, but don't stuff keywords into these sections either. We've actually seen podcasts get rejected for attempting to over-optimize these areas. Next, you'll need to upload your podcast artwork to your hosting platform. Unique podcast cover art is required to get listed in Apple Podcasts, and your cover art needs to meet their requirements. So the image needs to be at least 1400 by 1400 pixels, or ideally 3000 by 3000 pixels. The artwork needs a resolution of 72 dpi, and you can upload a JPEG or PNG file. For more information on this, you'll find a link to the support article on Apple's website in the video description below. Also, if you haven't designed your podcast cover art just yet, Buzzsprout has a Canva integration that will help you follow these specifications automatically. This makes it incredibly easy to create cover art that won't hold up your podcast submission. So if I click this, you can see I immediately have a canvas that's sized correctly and templates available to me on the left-hand side. And when I'm done, all I have to do is click Send to Buzzsprout. The third thing you need to do before submitting to Apple Podcasts is pick a podcast category. Apple Podcasts will split their directory and charts into different categories. So things like history, fitness, and science. Other podcast directories like Spotify use 3 categories, but Apple Podcasts only uses your first category. If you're starting a brand new podcast, we actually recommend that you go with a subcategory, since these are less competitive. So when you list your podcast in these less competitive categories, it'll be easier for your audience to find you. The last thing you need to do before you submit your podcast is upload and publish your first episode. So head over to Episodes, select Upload a New Episode, and then select your file from your desktop to start the upload. Now all that's left is to give the episode a title and a description, and then just click Publish immediately. Okay, so now that you've done those first 4 steps, you're ready to submit your show to Apple Podcasts. And Buzzsprout has actually partnered with Apple to make this as easy as possible by introducing a one-click submission. So if you're on Buzzsprout, you can use the timestamps in the video description below to skip ahead in the video and see exactly how it works. If you host your podcast somewhere else, I'm gonna walk you through the remaining steps. The first step is to copy your RSS feed URL, because we're going to submit this directly to Apple Podcasts. Now, your RSS feed includes all the info about your podcast, like your show details, the links to your cover art and audio files. Basically, this URL gives Apple access to everything they need to display your podcast correctly on their end. Next, you'll need to create an Apple account and have a valid credit card on file to submit your show. But don't worry, submitting to Apple Podcasts is completely free. It's just one of the requirements that Apple has in place. After you've created your Apple account, you'll have to log into Apple Podcasts Connect, and I'll have a link to this login page right down below in the video description so you can follow along with me. Now, I'm brand new to Apple Podcasts Connect, so I'm prompted with this message asking me to create an account. And this is a really quick process. I just need to add my account name, specify whether this is an individual or company account, and agree to the terms of service, and then just select Save. There we go. Now we're ready to go, and you can see I'm being prompted to add a show right here, right away. You can also click on the plus icon in the top left here next to podcasts. Both options will open up this pop-up window where we'll need to select a show type. I'm going to select Add a Show with an RSS feed, and then I'll click Next, and now I can paste the URL here. Then after I select Add, Apple will process and validate the show details. The validation process should take around 30 minutes, but can sometimes take a few hours. If it takes longer than 24 hours, we recommend that you reach out to Apple Podcast support directly. I will be sure to add their support email in the description below just in case, that way you don't have to track it down. Now, while Apple processes your podcast, you can go ahead and complete the content rights and show contact sections. So right here under content rights, You can specify this show does not contain third-party content. If you are using copyrighted material like music or clips, then you can select this show has the rights to its third-party content. Now complete your show contact form, which to be clear is not made public but does allow Apple to contact you if for whatever reason there's an issue with your podcast. Then just click save and you're one step closer. Once Apple has pulled in your show information and verified that there aren't any technical or content issues with your RSS feed, you can click publish to complete your podcast submission. And then you'll receive an email confirming your podcast is available and ready to listen to. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you're using Buzzsprout, the process has been simplified for you. We do have a great partnership with Apple Podcasts, and that means you can submit your show to them with one click. No Apple account or credit card needed. So after logging into your Buzzsprout account, all you have to do is head to the directories page, click on Get Listed in the Apple Podcast section, and then select Submit to Apple Podcasts. That's literally all there is to it. We'll take it from there and handle everything else for you. It usually takes less than 15 minutes to see your show displayed in the Apple Podcasts directory, but sometimes it can take up to 24 hours. However, if you run into any trouble, feel free to reach out to our amazing support team anytime. And that is how you submit a show to Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. And once your podcast is live, feel free to drop a link to your first episode in the comments below, because we'd love to check it out. Thanks again, and as always, keep podcasting.